All right, so this morning's Gemara learning will dedicate to your grandfather, Yaakov ben Chaim is Yartzai today, and
Chava bat Sarah.
Chava bas Sarah. What's the relation to you?
No, friend of the family.
Friend of the family. Passed away?
Yeah.
How long ago is this?
2 days ago.
Oh, mamish, wow. Okay. Okay, so we'll dedicate that to them. Okay, so we're on Ayin Hey Bay 75b in Yoma. And we're still on a discussion of the Slav and the Mana. And as we always do, we're going to learn the Gemara literally, and we'll suggest a deeper interpretation. But I wanted to mention something you emailed me, a possible explanation for the Gemara we said earlier about the quail filling up the oven,
and then the stacks of bread.
And the stacks of bread, and the lowest one is the one that's eaten. So the one that's humble, the one that's all the way at the bottom, is the one to receive all the fat.
Which is all the secrets.
All the oil, the secrets of Torah are revealed to the one who's at the bottom, the one who's humble. It's a very nice pshat. I like it. Okay, so we're in the middle of the page. Right in the middle of the page, you'll see an aleph that's inside, like a Rashi script aleph that's inside parentheses on Ayin Hey Bay 75b. And you'll see, like, almost right in the middle of the page, towards the left, the last word in the line is... Oh no, sorry, one line down, under that. Rav Yehuda. The last word is Bay, and then five words from the end of the line is Rav Yehuda. Just under that aleph inside brackets.
In the middle of the large lines?
Yeah. Okay. Towards the end, you see it?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, now the Gemara tells us something amazing. And this would, obviously there's a literal level, and this would further support the idea that the manna and the quail are representative of levels of Torah or receiving of Torah. And the following story is going to solidify that if we weren't sure until now. It says like this: Rav Yehuda is a scholar of the Gemara's age, early on in the Gemara age, midway, let's say. So we're talking about thousands of years after the manna fell from heaven. It says, Mishtakachle Bei Dani. He would find this quail. He would find this quail from heaven amongst his barrels of wine. So the story could be literal, or could also be metaphoric, both. I mean, it could be both, representative of his Torah. His wine, Torah is compared to wine. Torah is compared to many different liquids: water, milk, oil, honey, and wine. Maybe I'm missing more, but I'm pretty sure those are the five things, and they're representative of different levels of Torah. And wine definitely, like oil, represents the inner parts of Torah. So it's possible he found amongst his inner parts of Torah this quail. He found this level of connection to Hashem that's represented by the quail, this gift from heaven. It could also be literal. He found the quail amongst his barrels. Now Rav Chizda, Mishtakachle Beit Tzivi. Rav Chizda would find it not amongst his barrels, but would find it amongst his logs of wood. I'm not sure what this represents. It could be to a different level. Rav Yehuda would find it in his wine barrels, represents maybe he would find this gift from Hashem in his secrets of Torah. Famous verse that one drinks wine, the secrets come out. Wine's representative of secrets. So he found it amongst the secrets. But over here, he's finding it amongst his logs of wood.
Maybe these are the things that were important to them in the physical world?
This is what they did to make a living.
Yeah.
So they were a vineyard, and he was a lumber.
Lumberjack.
No, he traded in wood, in logs. But so that's certainly the case, but I'm trying to figure out what it means representative spiritually. And I think it's like a level lower maybe. But still he found this quail there. And Rava is Rav Chizda's son-in-law and student. Maisila Arisa, his sharecropper. Arisa is your manager, the manager of your field. Would bring it, call Yoma every day, would bring it from the field. So it seems like it's more distant. First Rav Yehuda's in his wine, Rav Chizda in his wood, And Rava didn't even have it himself. His sharecropper would bring it to him from his field. Yoma Chada, one day, Loi Aisi, the sharecropper didn't bring the quail one day. It's no longer there. The gift from heaven is no longer there.
This is all happening in heaven?
No, this is happening in the world.
Oh, in the world.
In the world.
Oh, okay.
But it's a gift from heaven. This quail is a gift from heaven.
Got it. Okay.
Literally, the quail, and metaphorically, some gift in Torah is, I'm assuming, some deeper insight or deeper revelation of godliness that they're receiving here. Right? So one day, Rava's manager doesn't bring the quail home from the field. Omar, so Rava asks him, hi, what's this all about? So the manager doesn't know anything. He doesn't say anything. How's he supposed to know one day why God decided not to give him the quail? Every day he's bringing it, today's not. I can't tell you why. So Rava says the Gemara, Salak Igra. He went up to the roof. He went up to the roof to contemplate the matter. It's a not uncommon thing. People had a deck on the roof and they used to go up and think. There's a number of places the Gemara talks about people going to the roof to daven or going up to think. I guess it was like a quiet place.
Yeah, there's Mishnayot about it too, but
Yeah, but
fences around the top.
that's the halacha about this.
Yeah.
But there's also like a Torah learning sometimes is talk about in the roof. Like there was a famous council that was on a roof of someone's house. And the Gemara said they made a bunch of Xeris then. That's already times in the Mishnah. This is much later in times of the Gemara. But it seems like it was a common thing. People would go up to the balcony to think. It's a quiet place. Get a nice view. Can think. I don't know. So Rava went up to the roof to think. Why all of a sudden is the quail not coming? Shamil Yunka. He heard the voice of a small child. I'm pretty sure it's a spiritual voice, not an actual child. And the Ka'amar, the voice was saying, actually in the Zohar, there's often a lot of mystical teachings that said in the name of the Yunka, in the name of a child. It's quoted in Tanya also, in the beginning of Perek Lamed Hey, beginning of chapter 35. The Alter Rebbe quotes the Zohar, who's quoting a Yunka, who's quoting a young child. So Rava hears the voice of a young child, Shama Yunka. The Ka'amar, which says, quoting a verse in Chavakuk, chapter 3, verse 16, Shamaiti, I heard, Vatirgas Bitni, and my stomach trembled. And the verse goes on to say, my lips quivered, and my bones started to rot from hearing terrible news. So basically he's hearing this heavenly spiritual child voice saying that there's some bad news around. So he's putting this all together. There's bad news, plus his quail didn't arrive today. Something's up. Omar, so Rava said, Shmami, no, we must deduce from these events, Noch Nafshe de Rav Chizda, that my father-in-law and teacher, Rabbi Chizda, has passed away. And he was only getting the quail in the merit of his teacher. His teacher is gone, no longer gets the quail. So that's why I said this further solidifies the idea that the quail is representative of something to do with Torah. Because he's losing the quail as a result of his teacher passing away. In other words, his teacher is obviously this medium to bring him this higher level of spiritual revelation, of godly revelation in his Torah learning. And now his teacher passed away, no longer gets it. It's quite something. And he explains, but Rabbi Achel, and thanks to my teacher, Rabbi meaning teacher, Achel I ate, Achel Talmud, the student eats. The student only eats thanks to the teacher. The teacher's no longer here, so he no longer gets to benefit from that revelation. Literally the quail, and obviously in the context of a teacher or student relationship, it's clear that there's some Torah mystical insight, spiritual godly insight that's being revealed here, represented by the quail, by the Slav. Okay. So that's the story. It's quite a story. Okay, I'm just going to interject here because I feel like I have to. There's it's the Shalish Tammuz today, right? And 3 days from now is Gimel Tammuz. This day that Rebbe passed away. In many respects, Chassid feels this way. The quail is gone. He doesn't get to have that spiritual revelation that was being granted him thanks to the teacher, like the Gemara says here. But Dil Rabba Achel Talmuda, thanks to the teacher, the student eats. The teacher's not there. The student feels like he's not getting nourishment. Not getting that kind of nourishment. But if, as we suggested before, the manna and the slav coming from heaven represents Torah as a free lunch, and a relationship with Hashem as a free lunch, which ends up making the people spoiled That's why they complained a lot. So we might say also that in a certain degree, a chassid living before Gimel Tammuz was somewhat spoiled. If he wanted to get inspired and feel some godly energy, go here for bringing, watch the Rebbe daven, get $1, get a blessing, and he's uplifted, feels spiritually invigorated. But it's a responsive inspiration, not engendered from within, like the manna, which is granted. I heard someone last night say it. I was listening to someone talk last night, and he put it this way. He said, before Gimel Tammuz, it was more like the Rebbe was giving. Not so much that we were taking, as much as the Rebbe was giving us. And now, the Rebbe's not there physically to give. This love is not falling from heaven. You want that inspiration, you got to work for it, push for it, fight for it from the bottom up. And that's the real mature version of a relationship with Hashem. Not so much responsive to inspiration coming from the outside, but from within. Not that I would, if I were given the option, I don't know that I would choose this version of life. But now that it's here, this to me seems like how we have to look at it.
That's what the generation in the desert was grappling with.
Yeah.
They had the free.
They had free manna, they had free Torah, they had free everything, and they complained, which explains why, like last week, they didn't want to go into Israel. Why would you want to go into Israel? Think about it. Why would you want to go into Israel? You have to work, you got to fight battles. In the desert, you have manna from heaven. Every time something goes wrong, you complain, Moshe fixes it for you.
So they had the choice, but they chose not to.
It was a big mistake, because they were supposed to trust that this is Hashem's plan and you march forward, because Hashem said to march forward. Right? But they were resisting that, and it makes sense why they would resist that. They had a spoiled, couchy life. Every time someone complained and something went wrong, went to Moshe, like yesterday's Chumash, when Korach, with the fight with Korach, so the pasuk says Moshe fell on his face, and Rashi explains it's like a king who has a child, and every time a child messes up, the king's beloved comes and intercedes. And at some point, the child's messing up so much that the beloved is like nervous. Is the king going to reject my interceding? And the same thing is here. Jewish people are Hashem's child. They're constantly messing up. They go to God's beloved Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu goes and fixes up the story. And Moshe Rabbeinu is nervous. It's not going to work anymore. But it works. It works again and again and again and again. Not that there aren't consequences. The people in the desert who died because of the result of the mistakes. But mass numbers of Jews, even though as Hashem was, as it were, initially was going to destroy the Jews many times, Moshe Rabbeinu was successful in protecting the Jewish people. So with all of that, and manna and the clouds of glory, why would you want to go to Eretz Yisrael? What for? Anyway, so I imagine that's how people feel about the pre versus post Gimel Tammuz relationship with the Rebbe, where before it's granted to you. You don't want to leave that. I don't blame anybody. But the reality is, we're here where we are. And now it's time for us to do the mature work of bottom up, fighting for our inspiration, digging within to find the inspiration, building our own relationship with Hashem on our terms, which is truly the more mature version of relating with Hashem. To that, we have the next Gemara. Okay, so third word from the line. The first word is Talmida, Ksiv. Second word, Ksiv. Okay, Ksiv, the verse reads with respect to the manna. Vatal shichvas hatal, that the dew would rise up from the earth, and that then they would see the manna there. Now that implies that the manna was on top of the dew, because the dew comes up. But Ksiv, then the verse reads, V'redas hatal, when the tal would come down, thus implying that the dew was on top of the manna. So which one was it? On bottom or on top? So says the Gemara Rabbi Bar Chanina. Rabbi son of Chanina says, Tal milamata, dew above it, tal milamata, and dew below it, v'doima. And it's comparative, k'moshe munach b'kufsa, as if the bread was placed in a box, neatly packaged, beautifully packaged, protected bread. Here you go, right here. further illustrating how spoon-fed the Jewish people were in the desert, and it's, beautifully placed in a perfectly neat box, dew from below, dew from above. This is one of the reasons why we cover our bread on Shabbos. One of the reasons is because of Kiddush, right? Because Kiddush is on wine and Challah is on bread, and you should be ordinarily making a bracha on bread before wine, and therefore not to insult, as it were, the bread. You cover the bread while you're making Kiddush, so it shouldn't be insulted that you're making Kiddush before you eat the bread. The other reason is because of the manna. The manna was covered from below and above, so we cover our challah wrapped around, reminding us of the manna. Right? In the same way, we have 2 loaves of bread to remind us of the double portion of the manna from Friday. They got double portion, one for Shabbos. So likewise 2 breads to remind us of the manna. So likewise, it's covered up in the same way the manna was covered from below and above, neatly packaged in dew, delivered in a box, delivered in like a nice packaging. Okay.
But one cover is sufficient, right?
Yeah, the bottom is covered anyway from the table. Right, place it on the table. It's already covered. Covered from the top. Okay, now the verse describes the manna, dak, as very thin, mechuspos, which means like frosty. So what does this word mechuspos mean, which is a very unique word, or its description is thin like and mechuspos. So Amar Reish Lakish says, Davar shenimoch al pises hayad. It was so thin and so delicate that it would melt to the touch of the hand. And that's what mechuspos means. Coming with the last letters there, pas, comes pises hayad, and chus, similar to nimuch. So the term describing it, dak mechuspos, the word mechuspos, which means frosted, is there to tell you that it's something like that's so thin that you touch it and it starts to melt already. It's very delicate. That's Reish Lakish's view. Rabbi Yochanan says that the manna was such that davar nivla, something which was absorbed in masayim v'arboyim v'shmonei varim, in the 248 limbs. Meaning to say, it had no waste. We eat food, we have a digestive system that selects the good nutrients, and the rest of it is waste. Whereas the manna is pure food from heaven with no external elements other than pure nutrients, and therefore the body absorbed it completely without any need for waste. This is going to become the subject of the next few lines of the Gemara, next little bit, about what this means and how this works, that it wasn't didn't have any waste. And we'll address that spiritually when we get there. But the Gemara asks at this moment, how did mechuspos get to this idea that it's absorbed in 248 limbs and doesn't have any waste? How do we get to that? Because the word mechuspos, as Rashi explains for us, is numerical value. No, Rashi doesn't explain it, but it's implied from the Gemara that mechuspos numerical value is 248. So do the math. Mem is 40. Ches is 8, 48. Vav is 6. So we're at 54, right?
Yeah.
Plus 60 is 114, right?
Okay.
Plus 80 is 194. Plus 60 is 154. And therefore the Gemara asks, Mechuspos tuvahava. Mechuspos is more than 248. So you're telling us that Mechuspos means the numerical value
154, you said?
254. 254. So it's a little over 248. There are 248 limbs, and it's absorbed in the 248 limbs from the number of numerical value of the word Mechuspos. But we have more. We have extra. We have 6 over 248 because it's 254. That's what the Gemara asked. Mechuspos tuvahava. The word Mechuspos is more than 248. Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak says, Mechuspos ksiv. It's written in the Torah without the vav. It's pronounced Mechuspos, but the vav in the Torah is not written. So vav is 6, 254 minus 6, you have 248.
Without the vav?
Without the vav. Because vav is 6, and 254 is 248 plus 6. So if we take the vav out, not the way it's pronounced, because it's pronounced with the vav as a vowel, but if you take it out, it's a non-visual vowel, it's written without the vav, then it equals exactly 248. Okay, so we're going to stop over here, but the Gemara now, tomorrow we're going to get into discussion, more detailed discussion about this idea of what kind of bread it was in terms of not having waste, and we'll suggest perhaps a spiritual explanation to what this means, absorbing Torah without waste. What does that mean? It's a very deep Kabbalistic idea related to this, although I haven't seen it written anywhere, but related to what Kabbalah says elsewhere about waste, I can suggest a possible explanation here. Okay, wonderful day, B'nai Good Chodesh.